Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. The world shows itself in various ways, in a multiplicity of ways, in an unending number of ways. It's impossible to put a number on the various ways that the world shows itself and the various things that are shown in the world. But in truth, there is one point, and there is one God, and there is one family, and we are all the sons of Adam and Eve. But in the world, there are various colors, languages, and sects, and races. Many different ways to pray, many different kinds of devotions, many different buildings to pray in. There are Hindu temples and mosques and churches. Each various religion has a separate house of prayer. There are all kinds of denominations. There are all kinds of different institutions that have been put together in order to worship. Yet, with all of these differences, there's still only one family, and there's still only one God. But because there are so many different ways that people approach that, people have come up with the assumptions that there are different gods for different people. They lost the sense of unity among mankind. They have separated themselves into sects and cults and religions and differences. And so the world now is constantly in a state of dealing with differences. And these differences cause divisions, and these divisions cause difficulties, and these difficulties cause conflicts, and these conflicts cause wars. And they all happen because of differences. Now, for us to understand truth, we have to understand that all of the forms that we see, all of the forms that we conjecture, all of the different ideas that we have about reality that come from the mind have no basis. The mind is not capable of understanding the truth. The mind is not capable of understanding reality. The mind is limited to this world and to the elemental plane. We have to go, if we're going to find the truth, we have to go beyond the elemental plane. There is the perception that man has, ordinary man. Ordinary man's perception comes through the mind. But there is another level of perception. There is a level called wisdom, and wisdom is a great mystery. And to be able to see this world through wisdom is a different way of seeing this world. It's a different way of understanding our place in this world. And if we are on the path to find wisdom, if we have decided that we want to understand reality, then we have to begin to search for who we are. And in that search, we have to assess our actions. We have to concentrate on our life and the purpose of our life. And we have to look closely at the meanings of everything that we realize. We have to live an analytic life. Now, people talk about faith and the extent of our faith. Our faith has to grow strong, and our faith has to be buttressed by our belief system. If we have a belief system that doesn't believe in God, we aren't going to have faith. Now, what is going to show us that God exists? What is the proof for us that God exists? And how do we find this proof in the world? Well, there are lots of answers to that question. And for different people, these proofs come in different ways. For some people, the rising of the sun may be an overwhelming proof for them that God exists. The consistency of this happening day in and day out, and it happening with precision, may be a proof for them of God. For others, the enormous assortment of creatures that have been created within this world, the overwhelming number of land animals and sea animals that have been created, may be a proof for some people. For others, the proof comes in the personage of a sheikh. The proof comes when they see a man who manifests qualities that are transcendent to this world. An insan kamil, a true man, has devoted himself to the world, to the beings in the world, and he takes on the suffering of the beings in this world. And no matter how much is given to him, he persists, maintains, and carries on. In the plant world, if you've ever seen an apple tree or a peach tree or any fruit tree, you will note that they give off an enormous number of fruit per tree. And each tree doesn't partake in any of the fruits that they grow. These plants are in a constant state of giving. When an apple tree is full with fruit, its branches begin to fall towards the ground because of the weight. So it's easier for people to pick the fruits. And this fruit is for everybody else. It's not for them. All of the fruit trees are like this. The vegetables are like this. So much in the plant kingdom just gives. We call ourselves men, yet can we give in the same way that the plant world gives? Well, an insan kamil, a true man, does. And a true man shows to other men the manifestation of godliness within man. God has sent 124,000 prophets into this world. And why did the prophets come? They came to teach us about God. They came to show us about God. They came to give us examples of what God is. They came to show us the correct way to live. They came to show us proper action. But did men take on what they told us? Instead of taking on what all of these prophets were teaching and understood about the unity of all of existence, understood about the unity of all men, they each separated these prophets as if they were somehow different one from the other, and as if they were somehow giving different messages one from the other, and separations pursued. And so what the prophets brought was godliness. What people did was create institutions. What people did was create religions. What people did was create businesses and jobs out of these prophetic teachings. So now we have rabbis and imams and priests and ministers, all of whom make a living off these religions, because that's what religions have come. They've become businesses. They've become the need for self-perpetuation. We need to find a space where we are outside of all of that, where we are outside of separations, where we are outside of differences, where we are outside of caste, where we are outside of religion. You're not going to find God through a caste system. You're not going to find God through differences. You're not going to find God through religion. You're going to find God through transcendence beyond the capacity of the mind. The mind is limited, and the mind goes as far as religion and philosophy. We need to go beyond philosophy into reality. And how do we go beyond philosophy, beyond religion, and into reality? How do we make that jump? What is it that allows us to go to that place? What is it that takes us to that place? And the answer is that we have to begin to look closely at ourselves and see all of the prejudices that we have within us, all of the differences that we have within us, all of the strong opinions that we have within us, all of the things that we hold on to that we consider as important as the understanding of unity, that we consider as important as the time we spend with Allah, that we consider as important as communion with the truth. There is but one truth, and we have to understand that truth. And that truth is beyond the nature of this world. But if we are constantly drawn into the worldly conflicts and the worldly separations and the worldly machinations of differences that cause conflict, that eventually cause wars, we are going to be in a constant state of upheaval, which won't allow us the peace to find truth, which won't allow us the peace to escape from the magnetism that holds us into place in this world. God has given man power. He's given man the ability to train an elephant. He's given man the ability to overcome wild animals and domesticate them. He's given man the power to overcome Satan. So what we have to do is overcome all of these things in the world that grab our attention and grab our emotions, grab our instincts, and pull us into thinking that the difficulties within the world can be resolved by us. We can only resolve the difficulties in this world if we can become true human beings. If we can enter into the realm of wisdom, and if we can find wisdom, everything in this world can change. The Quran says, if you save one human being, you've saved all of mankind. Who is that human being each of us have to save? It's ourselves. And what does it mean to save ourselves? It means that we transcend this world and enter into the kingdom of reality, that we enter into the kingdom of wisdom, that we enter into God's kingdom while we are still in this world. And if we can do that, then we can truly bring peace into existence. But as long as we are dealing with the everyday problems of mankind and the differences of mankind, and see ourselves not as one family, one unity, one religion, one overriding humanity, as long as we don't see ourselves that way, we will not be able to bring about any aid to humanity, because we have differences within us. And as long as differences exist within us, we are going to be bringing differences to everything that we encounter. So we need to become internalized. Within us is everything that is outside of us. And we need to study everything that is within us. We have to understand, why are there differences? What is it that makes men want to be different than each other? It needs to be understood. What is it about ego and pride and self-satisfaction and high and low? What is it that drives men in those directions? What is it that makes man want to stand out more than other men? What is it that drives people into being more and more important, have more and more fame, have more and more wealth, have more and more power? What is it that does that? And what is that relation to reality? What is that relation to the one who has all, knows all, gives all, and controls all? What is it about the separation from ourselves, from that one overwhelming power? And why do we need to separate ourselves from that one all-encompassing power? What is arrogance? What is the nature of arrogance? Why are we involved with arrogance? What keeps us arrogant? Why do we need to constantly reinforce the egocentric I and keep that going? We have to ask these questions of ourselves, and we have to study that. We have to begin to understand that. Then we also have to study, what is birth and what is death? How did we come here? Why did we come here? What's our purpose for being here? Why do we exist? Why did God create us? And what is the nature of our creation? In asking these questions, we can get at the core of our existence. And if we don't ask these questions, we can't get at the core of our existence, and we will live in a torpor that just goes on from day to day, reactive to the stimuli that surrounds us, reactive to all that the world tells us, and reactive to all of the things that the world says is important and we have to get involved in. This world is a school. We came here to learn. To learn what? to learn our relationship with our Lord, to understand our relationship with our Lord, to understand the nature of existence and why we exist, to understand the nature of truth, and to understand God's qualities. Now, what are God's qualities? Well, I can name them for you, and you can even look them up in a little book called the Asmaul Husna, which describes 99 of God's qualities, God's names, but he also has an additional 3,000 gracious qualities. But in Sufism, we have the miracle of something called a sheikh. And this sheikh is a manifestation of these qualities in human form. So if we can find a sheikh who has wisdom, if we can find a sheikh who's transcended this world, we can, with our own eyes, see what these qualities look like. We can see what compassion looks like. We can see what mercy looks like. We can see what justice looks like. We can see what kindness and love look like. We can see what truth looks like. We can see the consistency of what happens when these qualities are consistently applied to all matters in this world. And then we can begin to imitate that which we see. We should be able to put a handle on ourselves, control ourselves to the point where we act only with the qualities that the sheikh acts with, that we act only with the qualities that are God's qualities. And when we act only with those qualities, when we act only with the qualities that are constantly giving, that are constantly maintaining, that are constantly supporting, that are constantly buttressing all that is good, when we do that, when we begin to take that on, then change occurs within us. And that change is the transformation from apparent man into true man, from animal man into insan kamil, the one who has transcended illusion, the one who has transcended all of the worldly magnetisms and pulls that man is subject to. Animal man runs wild. Animal man will do all of the things that animals do. Animal man will eat other man. Animal man will destroy other men. And often for the sake of righteousness, often for the sake of higher ideals. There are philosophies that say, until you reach the highest ideal, it's okay to do away with everyone who doesn't understand that, that ideal. In truth, if we are going to deal with truth, Allah created every single one of us. Every single one of us has a right to life. Every single one of us has a right to freedom. Every single one of us has a right to attempt to meet our Lord. And none of us should stand in the way of that. None of us should interfere with each other in man's attempt to transcend illusion. We need to study illusion. We need to look at the world and see how things come and how they disappear, how things are born and then they die, how urges and lust drive man in certain directions, how lust overwhelms man so that he loses his sense of right and wrong. And lust pushes itself in many directions. There's a lust for power. There's a lust for money. There's a lust for fame. There's a lust for sex. There are all kinds of lusts in this world, but these lusts are attached to desire. Desire is attached to illusion and to the world by way of the mind. And as long as we operate in that realm, there is no solution for us. So we have to deconstruct all of this. We have to look at all of it and find out why we do everything that we do. What is the motive behind all of our actions? What is the intention behind all of our actions? Or do we just do things because it seems that everybody else is doing? Do we do things in order to fit in with the rest of the world? Why do we do things? We have to understand the nature of why we do things. It's only when we get to the point where we know why each of our actions are done, when we know the truth of each of our motives, that we can begin to work on our motives. If our motives are less than honorable, we have to turn them around to become honorable. If the reasoning that we use to do things is less than honorable, then we have to find honorable reasoning. We have to begin to study the qualities that belong to God. We have to begin to understand the nature of mercy and what mercy does. Why is it that God maintains all of humanity? What is this mercy that is within him that drives this sustenance of all of creation? What is it? Where does it come from? How did that come about? What is this love that keeps this mercy afloat? What is this unconditional love that Allah had for his creation of humanity? And why did he create it? What is this mysterious connection between man and God? And are we more interested in this mysterious connection between man and God, or are we more interested in the workings of the world? We need to realize that the world is not a stable place. Just look at it. Look at the tornadoes. Look at the hurricanes. Look at the earthquakes. Look at the snowstorms. Look at the hot weather. Look at the cold weather. Look at all of the destruction that is constantly going on within nature. This should tell you that stability is not something that exists within this world. Look at mankind. Man comes and goes, arrives and disappears. There's no eternity to him in this form. The form of man that we see is a fleeting apparition that lasts for a period of time and disappears. Yet we treat it as if it was holy and sacrosanct. What's holy is the soul that this body carries. And we need to somehow be able to get in touch with that. And to do that, we have to do away with all of the differences. Our Sheikh said to us, everything that separates me from my fellow man separates me from God. If God is within all of us, if he's given a soul to each of us, and if we separate men from ourselves for whatever reason, race, color, religion, we've separated that soul from ourselves. And what is that soul? A part of God. So we've separated God from ourselves. And in this separation, we've separated ourselves from God because of our refusal to enter into unity, because of our refusal to accept the lack of differences, because of our insistence on being different and in somehow giving ourselves importance because of these differences. My religion is better than your religion. The way I worship God is the only way that is accepted. The religion that I know is the right religion. There's only one way towards God, and it's my way. Each one of these separations separates us from the truth. So a big portion of what we have to do in this world to find truth is to relieve ourselves of all of our differences, to relieve ourselves of all of our separations, to relieve ourselves of all of the institutions and all of the methodologies that we've acquired over the years, of all of the lies that we've been told that we've accepted as truths. And it's easy to begin to decipher which lies are not true, what we've been told that's not true. There's a simple test. Is what we've accepted loving? Is what we've accepted something that doesn't harm anyone else? Is what we've been told inclusive of all of humanity? Or does it separate us from each other? Does it create divisions? Does it create separations? If it creates separations and divisions, it's a lie. If it is inclusive and brings about love, then it's the truth. And we need to recognize those simple understandings and bring them into our understanding so that we can find reality. And then the truth will open up for us. Then the path will open up for us. But as long as we stay separated, as long as we create differences and divisions, truth will not be available to us. Arrogance will keep your wisdom from operating. Arrogance will not allow you to see truth. So we have to become small. We have to become humble. We have to understand that there is but one God, and everything is from and through him. And we also have to understand that this path is continual, and we haven't come to an end of it. Once we come to an end of it, we begin to change. And this is what happens in religions. They believe they've gotten all of the truth, and they say, it's finished. The books are closed. We know the answers, and this is what it is. And we're going to tell it to you, and we're the ones who own it and control it. Well, only Allah owns it and controls it. Only Allah knows the end. Each of us are merely crossing thresholds. And there are an infinite number of thresholds that we need to cross. But each time we get to a new threshold, arrogance says, I've made it. But there are a million more thresholds to cross. There are an infinite number of more thresholds to cross. So we are pilgrims. We are moving forward, crossing thresholds, getting closer and closer to reality, asking our Lord for his favor to take us on this straight path and to open up the vistas of truth for us. And knowing all the time that our faith has to still become stronger and stronger and stronger, and that there's more and more and more to know. There's no end to what we have to learn. There's no end to understanding the qualities of God. There's no end to understanding their nature. And we have to become the ones who take on the burden of knowing what that is. We need to be the ones who attempt to escape from the torpor of illusion and enter into the reality of God's qualities so that we can enter into the truth of existence. Reality is beyond illusion. Reality is beyond torpor. Reality is beyond what we now know. So we have to be open for constant new experience, constant new understandings, and we can't be satisfied. We have to continually move forward, go towards God, ask for forgiveness, and ask that we be taken into the next transcendent stage so that we become closer and closer to truth and reality. Allah has to help us do this. He is the only one who can help us. He is the only one we can turn to. And humbly, we have to ask him every day for help in this venture so that we can fulfill the obligation that we were sent here for, which is to come to know truth and become that truth. May that happen for each and every one of us. May we all come to know reality. May we all come to know our Lord. May we all be taken to that place of transcendence where he alone exists. May it be so. Ameen. Ameen. Ya Rabbil Alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.